Hi, this is Eden Gordon Hill, and I am with Defenders Live. And today I have the honor to introduce you to a friend of mine who I was introduced to in fighting CRT over the past year. Her name is Patti Hidalgo Menders. She is a community liaison officer in Northern Virginia. Patti, thank you for joining our show. We look forward to having you.
Thank you, Eden. This is such a pleasure, honestly. You're my friend. And yes, we did meet fighting this battle together the last 2 years. And it's crazy when people get involved, what they can accomplish.
Well, tell me about the accomplishments, but tell me how you got into the fight to fight CRT. You are in Loudoun County, and
Yes.
obviously you were all over Fox News. You were on Breitbart. You were in Town Hall. You were in The Federalist. You were on NBC. And so you were all over the place using your voice. So tell us how that came about.
So it's interesting. 5 years ago, I started doing these big events in Loudoun County to rally people to get together. We felt during Trump's administration that conservatives didn't have a voice. We were being almost attacked on social media, and it was just an ugly time. So I would hold these big events, and conservatives would get together. And it became like the best party that you could have in Virginia when it comes to conservatives. Well, somebody asked me to take over an organization that was kind of crumbling. They were the Loudoun County Republican Women's Club. And it was about 30 cutest little old ladies. And I was hesitant only because, it's a volunteer position and I was working full time. Long story short, the club grew so fast, so quickly that the first year we won 2 national awards for membership growth, percentage, and numerical growth. So that kind of fueled us into the second year. And it was right during COVID. So this was 2019. I took over the club tail end. 2020 March, we is when COVID hit and everyone was in their homes. And as a parent, I'm a mom of 6 sons, believe it or not. And my youngest at the time was a sophomore in high school. And I would be just looming over his shoulder, kind of looking at his computer, seeing what he was learning from these teachers. And because of being a president of such a large club, I had other moms send me screenshots and videos of what they were learning from their children while we're all home working and doing school. And it just alarmed me. The first was a video of a teacher belittling a student to look at 2 pictures, a black girl and a white girl. And it turns out they're sisters, twins from England. And the teacher was pushing this child to say, what do you see? What is the race you see? And the kid is like, I just see 2 people chilling. And he kept pestering him. And the child said, if you want me to say there's 2 different races, a black person and a white person, isn't that feeding into the narrative of dividing us by race? And the kid was smart enough to record this. So we edited the material. We took the kids' names out. We left the teacher's name, and it went viral. This video went viral, and it just woke up people to what some teachers were pushing. And this is in Loudoun County. And when that went viral, we went to the school board to ask for not only in-person learning again, but we were asking, what is going on? Why are you pushing this narrative? And at the time, we did call it CRT, critical race theory, but they kept denying it. They kept saying, no, CRT is being taught. That's a matter in the higher education. And they denied it. Well, parents started to organize. We would have rallies before school board meetings. We would ask for a plan for in-person. Then it went to understanding. More parents started seeing the curriculum changing in English classes, history classes, even math. Like math equations were always race-based. And parents would FOIA. we would ask for freedom of information,
Yep.
and
Yep.
we found a invoice from an equity consultant called the Equity Collaborative that basically told it was a very large bill for critical race training, and we had the proof. So no matter how many times we went to the school board to show them, we know what you're doing, they denied it.
So, okay, the school board denies it continually. So we are seeing a rise in the states around the nation. People are fighting back. Florida is fighting back. Chester County, Pennsylvania, where I grew up, they discovered a case and parents are fighting back. We have Virginia. We now have the rise of Youngkin. Thank God. With the more south we go, the freer it becomes. But I'll tell you what, living in North Carolina, and while I was on the campaign trail, I exposed the fact that CRT is in our schools here, whether they want to believe it or not. I mentor kids. We never got to have kids. I mentor kids. And they said, Miss Eden, how is it when a fish dies, it becomes transgender? And I said, I don't know. I wasn't very good at science, but I know for one thing, the transgender infiltration, the CRT aspect is here. And these kids are smart. They're picking up on it because they know it's wrong. But with the state by state issue, I just read just a few days ago, June the 9th, and then yesterday, the 14th, Republican Study Committee for the House. Representative Banks from Indiana, Fort Wayne, is the chairman and a Navy reservist. He stated they are putting a 2023 budget proposal to ban CRT out of the schools and out of the military. What are your thoughts to that?
It is so important that more parents wake up. They need to research in their own schools what is going on, and they will be surprised. I've talked to parents all over the US, and they want to know how they can get involved.
Right.
And I said, the first thing you need to do is do Freedom of Information Act to find these the facts.
Right.
And then align yourself with teachers, conservative teachers that are in the schools. They're another line of defense. I actually formed a coalition of teachers on a private Signal chat so that I could support them and they could share information without any retaliation. So first of all, parents need to equip themselves. They need to understand what's happening in their own schools. Mm-hmm. Then you can ask your elected officials to help you. Mm-hmm. This is their job, to listen to constituents.
Right.
And in my area, unfortunately, I was surrounded, in fact, we're drowning in Democrat representation, but it didn't stop us. Our movement in Loudoun County of parents waking up, pushing back against the school board, using media to our advantage, using rallies, it woke up elected officials running for office. Mm-hmm. And yes, Youngkin was 100% behind us. He saw that parents' rights were necessary. So the success we had here in Virginia is growing throughout the U.S. Mm-hmm. And I know that the Banks talked about CRT. They like to use other words. They say CRT is not.
Yes.
So let's use the words that they're using: diversity, equity, inclusion, culturally responsive training. It's all the same type of program. This equity that they're pushing, it is incredibly divisive. It is pushing our children aside, making them victims and oppressors just by the color of their skin.
Right.
So I learned a lot that the constituents, the people that have the right to vote, we have a lot of power. Mm-hmm. And if we understood that, we could take back any corrupt elected official. So the fact that it's working in all these different states, like you said, Indiana, Virginia, North Carolina, parents are waking up. I've had people in New Jersey contact me and say, what can we do? They lost their governor's race by very close. But I feel like parents are waking up. And the more you learn, and if you have a passion for wanting to protect your children, mm-hmm. then you can do anything. You can affect legislation. You can affect public opinion. So parents need to get involved.
Well, what I say to the 2022 and 2024 elections, the red wave that they continue to say may come through, will come through, we tell those elected officials what to do. We are their boss. They need to listen to their people that elected them, not go up to Capitol Hill or not go to the state legislature and say, oh, who are they? You elected me? No, we tell you how this is going to go down. So you better watch out, because you have a lot of parents watching you, and they are going to fight this tooth and nail. When I was on the campaign trail, I had a mom come up to me and she said, you know, what are we going to do about this with our young kids, in the fact that, are they going to disclose that the teachers are transgender? And fast forward to current, I was looking at a video about a young woman who was so indoctrinated with social media, and she continued to question herself. She was a female, and the year later passed, she kept getting fed this cult that she should be transgender. And then she saw the light. But it's such a cult, the CRT, the transgender cult. Here are some of the words that the Chester County parents uncovered in the indoctrination of CRT. School Transformation Action Plan. One of the target words: whiteness as property, color blindness to be disregarded, faces of danger. Yes, these were in the CBS News, Idaho News, that covered Chester County, Pennsylvania, and what this father was uncovering and what was happening in his son's school. And then I went over to Jim Banks as he put out the press release for the Republican Study Committee. He's saying our current president, commander-in-chief, they totaled 6 million man hours to discuss woke and the extremisms of the DEI training. You could hear a pin drop as I'm sitting here reading this. And the chief of naval operations put on the Navy's top list Ibram Kendis, the book that is anti-American, Capitalism is Racist, the United States is a racist country, and the National Defense University did a case for globalism, saying it's a Democrat socialism to combat China.
Eden, all of this is to separate us from each other. Mm-hmm. It is to create victims. It is to hurt the family unit. It is to take away any relationship between parent and child. Mm-hmm. It is giving everyone a trophy for their, victimization. And it's sad. It's a cancel culture where they are targeting our young people on social media, no doubt. And I am so glad that all 6 of my sons are wise enough and faithful enough to not veer from our family values. But when you've got working parents that can't watch everything that they do, and they've got defiant children, which all teenagers go through, they think that they're welcomed in these kind of organizations. Mm-hmm. And it is so critical that we discipline our children, that we give them good boundaries, that we love them, that we are in their faces. We ask them, where are you going? What are some of the website histories? I just feel like parents have such an amazing time right now to stop this and turn this around.
Do you think with the 2024-2022 red wave, do you think our nation is rising and fighting back with regards to the wokeness, the cult that is at our doorstep?
I think a lot of us want common sense. We're tired of this wokeism. We're tired of constantly offending others for our words. I think people are waking up. They are realizing that the world is not simple anymore. It's so complicated.
Yes.
And I think if we go back to the simplicity of family life, a husband, a wife, children,
Right.
and good community members, support for our teachers, support for law enforcement. If we can get back to order and common sense, taking politics out of our education, out of our law enforcement, I know that we can bring back a pro-America spirit.
Right. With that pro America spirit, as we sit here and think about what's ahead with the election cycle, you were on the ground with the Youngkin team. You saw firsthand what happened on the campaign trail. And as you look out to all of, I look at New Jersey for a hot second because they are rising up. Darius Mayfield, I'll drop
That's
his,
a friend of mine. Yes.
is phenomenal. And he is one of those that's rising up. He got an endorsement from Kimberly Fletcher, Moms for America
Awesome.
president. And I just look at what they are trying to do and how they are activating. They're taking back America. And that is so important. But at the end of the day, when there are parents that are just so busy with the work schedule, juggling kids, juggling that intense schedule. What about mentoring? What about having another person, whether it's the father, the mother, juggling the whole, being that team? But there is leaders out there that want to mentor. There are young college students that want to mentor. There are older adults, even grandparents who are looking out. Are there avenues that you would recommend, resources that you would recommend for families who are just trying to get by and wanting to protect their children?
There are a lot of good organizations, nonprofit, faith-based Christian organizations, even Jewish organizations that have a lot of the mentorships. I'm on the board of the Loudon Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and these coaches are mentoring these children at the schools. Now, it is athletic based and it is focused on Christ, but both of my younger sons were very involved, and it keeps them accountable.
Right.
It gives them a different way to look at life instead of the social media push and what some progressive teachers are pushing. So I think parents need to look for those kind of organizations. They need to find the mentors that are wanting to get involved. The FCA, like I said, worked for my children, but every child is different. My girlfriend is a violin teacher, and she has a lot of Indian students that come, and she's a wonderful role model to these students that come, however many times a week. So parents, we do find a lot of resources to help us, but you've got to be proactive.
Yeah, most definitely. One other question I'll ask you before we end our amazing time together. Within the role that you are leading in Northern Virginia, you are right outside the DC Beltway. You are seeing our nation's capital unfold in a completely different manner. And from the top down to the local level, we know the impact it's making, the trickle down aspects, but we also know the impact of the local level. And you mentioned that coalition of conservative teachers you put together. Tell us how that continued to impact them, support them, and what type of a template would you say for our women's Republican groups here in the South or up north or in Jersey, as we gather and say, how can we be more of a support and develop coalitions for these teachers who want to fight?
So I developed that coalition for teachers out of a need. I would see on social media that teachers were afraid to talk. And a couple of my members reached out to me and they were afraid to lose their job. So I said, okay, let's create a platform where you can talk amongst each other and still be safe from any harm. Because here in Loudon, they have removed 3 teachers. They fired 3. One because he wouldn't say he, she pronouns,
Right.
wouldn't accept that. And then the other 2 was just recently, they were sexually harassed by, unfortunately, he was a disabled child, but these teachers were looking for help. And the administration said, just stick a cardboard in front of you and he'll stop touching you. So those were not good solutions. So these teachers wanted to make it public. So I think regular moms and dads need to find allies everywhere they go, at the gym, in the grocery store. I always had little business cards at the ready to introduce myself and say, hey, I'd love to talk to you more about this. Or if I'd see somebody complaining on social media, I'd send them a private message and I'd be like, I see that you're really upset about what's happening in your schools. You should join us. So even tonight, the Coalition of Teachers is having an end of school celebration and they invited me. So I think if parents can join together with teachers and not look at them as the opposing side, but really partner, because we've got to raise our kids together with all of these different types of mentors and people that influence our children. So I think you just have to be creative and find people where they're at.
Well, looking at everything I've written down from our amazing interview, you are stating parents equipped to a FOIA aspect, align with conservative teachers, form a coalition of conservative teachers, engage your local officials, engage your elected officials. And obviously, we saw what that did in Loudoun and Fairfax County and Yonge. Ta-da is the governor.
Another great issue is we use letters to the editor to make public, just to let people know about opposing views so that they could weigh, because how else do you reach another political side? It's tricky without costing a fortune. So we did do letters to the editors quite often, going to the school boards because they're all videotaped. I taught a lot of people how to write a school board message. You want to get straight into the point. You want few words, get straight to the point, time yourself, practice. And then I did call my local media and invited them to whatever rallies we held at the school board meetings. I also asked elected officials to join us at these rallies. I'm the one that secured Matt Walsh to come to Loudoun County, and he spoke at our rally, and the school board wouldn't let him speak. And we devised a little plan that he would rent my basement for $1, and we signed a rental agreement and he was able to speak. So there's always, like I said, if you are passionate about your children and keeping them safe, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, then you will find ways of fighting back and sticking up for your children.
Oh my gosh. And I applaud you for doing that with Matt Walsh. What a woman. What is a woman?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Just throw that out there. That is, if you haven't had a chance, go to Daily Wire and check out What is a Woman by Matt Walsh. And just had to drop that in there. What a phenomenal human. Absolutely.
He was so focused on letting people know about the transgender issues, and it's all wrapped up into one. The transgender, the critical race theory, it's just separating our children by race and gender. So
he is absolutely phenomenal. And as are you. Patti Menders, community liaison officer in Northern Virginia, and a very dear friend. And I'm grateful that you joined us today. And I look forward to bringing you back because I want updates on everything that you are doing. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much, Eden.